Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Thanks for tuning in for another episode. Today I've got some good crankbait modification tips for you that can help generate a few extra bites under some circumstances. Plus, it just spruces up your crankbait, gives it a whole different look. And if you're fishing a lake that has a lot of crankbait pressure, this can be one of those things that completely separates your bait away from the competition or other anglers. So we're going to get into those. Before I do, though, I want to remind you that if you're looking to support the channel, make sure you hit that subscriber button. It's a great way to show your support for us. Plus, if you're looking to purchase some tackle, please use my Tackle Warehouse affiliate link. I'll put the attachment in the video description for you. And that's another great way to support the channel. All right, so crankbait's definitely one of my favorite baits to throw year round. Generates bites in cold water, generates bites in warm water. One of those baits that just triggers really good reactionary strikes. The key with them a lot of times is to either deflect off objects or create a lot of random motion using your rod tip and stop and go of your reel retrieve. And from that standpoint, when you're taking a crankbait, you just want to get it to move all over the place because that's where your reactionary bites are going to come from. Now, one thing I got to tell you that I've done with crankbaits for a long time, I do with all my hard baits, honestly. I've done this for a long period of time, and it's something we see quite common on a lot of other baits, specifically like topwater baits. You know, you see me talk about this guy quite a bit. This is a Vixen. And one thing that I do with this is this is a Flashaboo trailer that I hand tie on the back. And I do that with most of my topwater baits. And that's a pretty common thing in the topwater world. But you can do very similar things with respect to your crankbaits. There is no reason at all why you can't add a feathered treble hook to the tail end. You know, you can either take the treble hook that comes on the bait, hand tie it yourself, or you can go out and buy some simple feathered treble hooks. Generally, one thing I will say with any of these tips is you're probably going to lose a tad bit of diving depth. You know, anytime you add a little bit of resistance to the bait, what it's going to do is actually prevent it from getting down to its deepest levels. But having said that, in some instances, you may want to do these tricks to prevent you from getting deep. Maybe you're fishing in 10 foot of water and you're throwing a bait that dives to 12 or 15, and you want to actually raise that bait up a little bit. Adding a feathered treble hook is a great way to do that. I also really like to do it if I'm fishing in dirtier water where I want to create a little bit of extra flash, a little bit extra motion, something for the fish to try to key in on. But a feathered treble hook is a very good approach. Now, I will tell you, that's not only where I stop. Now, if you watch my channel regularly and you've done it for a long period of time, you've probably seen me talk about some of these other ways to adapt a crankbait as well that I've done on some other baits. Now, one of those, another simple method, and you're starting to see a few bait manufacturers do this, and that's to add a little blade onto the back hook. Now, I do not remove this back hook under any circumstance with doing any of these. I like to leave that hook there, and then I'll just attach the blade with a split ring. And I do that for two reasons. One, the blade is generally going to be above the hook, so it's going to spin. But two, I actually like my blade to clink off the hook. And I like that blade to start, stop, and create some more erratic flashing motion that can generate those strikes. So I really do like to add a small willow leaf to the back of the bait. You can even do that to the middle treble hook as well so that it kind of clinks underneath the bait. Now you can buy different size willow leaf. I think this is a size, don't quote me on it. I think it's a size 2. Do I have it here? What is this guy? Yeah, I don't know offhand what this guy is. These are the zapo blades. So these are actually written in Japanese on the back, so it doesn't show. But you can get really, really small willow leaf blades that are about half this size too, to the point where it would actually not even come in contact with the back hook because the blade only goes like halfway to the belly. And then you add some of that clinking motion as well. So a blade can be a great way to add some additional flash, some additional sound, some additional fish catching appeal to your bait. Now, one other thing that I really like to do when I'm thinking about modifying a crankbait, and this is something I really do like to do for like open water smallmouth, and that's to reuse boot tails. So if I've got some old Kitech swim baits, what I'll do is I'll take a little R-bend hitchhiker. Let's see if you can see that. So an R bend is one that's got an actual opening on the back end here. So you can just take that R bend hitchhiker. So I've threaded the boot tail up onto it. You can take it and you just pop it right into your tail just like that. So from that standpoint, that's going to swing freely. I'll get a little bit of tail kick out of it. It's not something that I do necessarily all the time, but I have had some really good occasions where it's triggered a lot of those fish. You know, if I'm fishing really clear water for smallmouth, a lot of times what I find is that little bit of tail kick almost gives it that translucent appearance. It gives the fish something to key in on, and it just generally seems to generate some really aggressive strikes and get fish that were following my bait to commit to it. So I definitely like to use an old boot tail. The other thing I like to do is reuse some old straight tail worms. So in this case, this is a Morning Dawn, the back end of a 6-inch Morning Dawn robo worm, which work great for this. You know, a lot of times if you're using them, if you got them on like a robo worm hook, they tend to pull out and tear at the head real good. Well, I'll cut the back end of it off, put it on one of those R bends, and just go ahead again and just snap it above my hook. And that is one of the keys here. You want to make sure when you snap it in or you attach an additional split ring with, say, a blade, or, you know, the feather treble hook is going to be on the treble hook, but you want to make sure that that is above the treble hook. If you attach it below the hook will end up fouling quite a bit more because the hook is riding on top of it. But in this case, this is another great thing to do. You're retrieving it, and this little tail is just swimming behind it. It gives it that rat appearance, but yet it's underwater. And the funny thing to me is why this is not a much more commonplace thing. Like, I would expect companies almost to make attachments that you could just attach to the back end of the crankbait because of how productive they can be and how appealing they can be to the fish where they don't normally see it. But you know, I'm gonna say 99% of the crankbaits out there, that's what they look like when they come out of the box. This is the Berkeley Dime 6 stock, nothing added to them, but there's a lot of extra ways to add a little bit of bling to it that'll give these baits just that much more appeal and appearance. So if you're fishing dirtier water and you want to add some flash, you want to add a little bit of bulk, give the fish something to key in on, you can add these. If you're fishing clear water where you feel like the fish are getting too good of a look at something and you want to add again a little flash, a little tail kick, something along those lines, it's really ridiculous to me how well that can actually work. But don't think just because you buy a crankbait and that's how it comes out of the box that you can't go ahead and modify it with some of these simple tips. Give it a try, guys. I'm going to tell you, it really can be an amazing experience as to how much better it can get from doing that. Let me know in the comments section. Are you doing this? Have you tried these tips? If you have, provide us with the feedback. Maybe you think I'm crazy. Maybe you agree with me and you say, yeah, these actually do work pretty well. But let me know. Anyways, if you enjoyed today's video, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Stay tuned. New video coming out tomorrow.